Hello friends, Namaskar, this is Sanjay. In this video, we will be solving the 30 CDP questions from the CTET December 2021 question paper. This particular exam was held on the 1st of January of 2022. As you are aware, the CTET December 2021 exam was conducted from the 16th of December of 2021 till the 21st of January of 2022. So the exam was conducted over a period of 23 days. Which means that we will have 23 different versions of paper 1 that we can solve. And since each subject has 30 questions in every question paper, in this series we will be solving 690 questions per subject, which includes 690 CDP questions. So these 690 CDP questions will cover the complete CDP syllabus that you need to prepare for the upcoming examination. So let's get started. Which of the following principles suggests that different body parts develop at different rates at various stages of development? To answer this question, you have to be familiar with two important terms which are frequently asked in the CDP question papers, that is proximodistal and cephalocaudal. Now cephalocaudal means that the development happens from the head down. That is, when the human body is growing in the mother's womb, then first the head develops and then the spine develops. And proximodistal says that the development happens from inside out. That is, first the spine develops and then the limbs develop, and only then the fingers and the toes will develop. So the development happens in cephalocaudal, that is from the top down, and proximodistal, that is from inside out. Therefore, the correct answer here is the direction of development is proximodistal and cephalocaudal, that is from top to bottom and from inside to outside. Which of the following statements is correct? Now, the child's development takes place in a socio-cultural context. Now, this is a correct statement because the child develops and grows and learns things from the society around him or her and from the cultural aspects that he or she learns from his family, his or her community. Therefore, the child's development is influenced to a large extent by the socio-cultural context. Therefore, this is a correct statement. Now, let us see if any of the other statements are correct. It says, the next one says, childhood is a period that can be divided into 10 distinct stages. Now, this statement is incorrect because childhood can be divided into 3 distinct stages. That is early childhood, middle childhood and late childhood. Therefore, this is incorrect. Next, children's thinking is not influenced by social interactions. This is incorrect because when you look at children, they learn a lot from social interactions. From their friends and from their parents and from their community, they will learn a lot of behavior and thought process, right? Therefore, children's thinking is influenced by social interactions. Therefore, this is incorrect because not makes it an incorrect statement. The last one is children's development is solely determined by genetics. This is also incorrect because there are two aspects to the development of a child: nature and nurture. Nature is genetics and nurture is the socio-cultural context. Therefore, the children's development is solely determined by genetics. That is, genetics plays the only part in the development of a child makes this an incorrect statement. Therefore, the only correct answer here is option 1. The process of predetermined unfolding of genetic dispositions is called what? To answer this question, I can give you a small example. If you look at a child whose parents are very tall, then the child will also eventually grow to be quite tall. So there is a high probability that the child will be tall if both the parents are tall. Now this is a genetic disposition. And when will you get to know that the child has reached his or her maximum height? That is when the child is mature. Therefore, maturation is the correct answer. If a child is from a relatively short family where the parents or the grandparents are quite short, then the probability or the chances are that the child also will be short. And when do you get to know that the child has reached his or her maximum height? When the child has reached maturity. Therefore, the process of predetermined unfolding of genetic dispositions. Genetic disposition can be the probability that the child will be tall or the child will be short. So when do you get to see this? When the child has reached maturity or maturation. Therefore, the correct answer is maturation. Dash is the primary and dash is the secondary agent of socialization. So now the simple way to answer this question is family will always be the primary agent of socialization for any child, because the family is the first level of interaction that the child has. It might be the parents, the siblings, the grandmother, grandfather, or the extended family. Always family is the primary source of socialization for the child. Therefore, family should be primary and everything else will be secondary. That will be the school, the neighborhood, the media will be secondary. Therefore, family is primary and school is secondary. Therefore, this has to be the correct answer. If you look at the other options, here media and family. Media is secondary and family is primary. Therefore, this option will not fit. Next, school is secondary and media is also secondary. Therefore, this is also an incorrect option. Then media and neighborhood both are secondary and secondary sources of socialization. Therefore, this also is not correct. Therefore, you have to remember that family is primary and everything else is secondary agent of socialization. According to Lawrence Kohlberg, what is the primary basis for a 7 or 8-year-old children's moral decision? That is, if a 7 or 8-year-old has to take a decision which involves a right or wrong. For example, a child goes to a garden and sees there is a tree with fruits on it. Now the child knows that the tree does not belong to him, right? And how does the child decide whether or not to take the fruits from the tree and eat it? So, is the child thinking about social order maintenance or social contract maintenance or universal ethical principle? Now we are talking about a 7 or 8-year-old child, a very young child. Right? So now these are all very complex issues, that is social order, social contract and universal ethical principle. At this age, that is at the age of 7 or 8 years, the child is thinking about punishment and obedience, right? Because the child is thinking, if I take the fruits from this tree, then I might be punished by the person who owns the tree, or I might be punished by my parents for stealing things. Therefore, the child is actually deciding on the basis of punishment and obedience. Therefore, this is the correct answer. You can pause the video here and read about the other aspects, that is social order maintenance, social contract, universal ethical principles and all of that in the table given below, because these are all important concepts that are asked in the exam. Seriation in Jean Piaget's theory refers to which of the following? Now this is a very simple question, because seriation is nothing but arranging things or objects in a series. For example, if you give the child a set of blocks and ask the child to arrange them in some order using some dimension. It might be the height of the blocks, it might be the weight of the blocks, or it might be the length of the blocks. So if the child is able to order or arrange those blocks or objects using any dimension such as length, height or weight of the blocks, starting with the tallest one to the shortest one or the heaviest one to the lightest one. So such an ability is called seriation. Therefore, this is the correct answer. So you just need to remember, seriation means arrangement in series. Naseema, a 5-year-old, is certain that rolling out a ball of clay into a snake creates more clay. According to Jean Piaget's theory, what is the reasoning behind her thinking? Now, the child has a ball of clay which is of this size, and the child rolls it out to form a snake. So it becomes like this. So now the child thinks that the quantity of clay has increased because she has rolled it out in the form of a snake. So what is the reasoning behind her thinking? Now this is called centration, and that is the correct answer here. Now to answer this and to remember the correct answer, just think of what would you call a person who is thinking of only himself or herself. You will call the person self-centered, because the person is only thinking of one thing at a time, that is himself or herself. So similarly here the child is being centered, or centration is happening around only one aspect. The child is only thinking about the overall length of the object. That is, initially the length of the clay ball was this much. When it is rolled out in the form of a snake, the length of the clay ball becomes more. So the child is looking at only the length and thinking that the quantity has increased, whereas the child should be looking at other dimension as well, that is the overall mass or overall shape of the object. But the child is thinking about only one aspect of the problem, only one aspect of the object, or only one situation at a time. So this is called centration, and that is the correct answer. Thinking about only one thing at a time is called centration. Lev Vygotsky offered the theory of cognitive development along the principle of which of the following? Now this is a very simple question, but it is also a very important question. As soon as you see the word Lev Vygotsky, you have to automatically remember that Lev Vygotsky was a proponent of social constructivism. Therefore, the correct answer here is social constructivism. So you should read a little more about what is social constructivism so that you get a better idea about it, and I will cover this in one of the other videos. But for now, just remember Lev Vygotsky is always connected to social constructivism. Which of the following is the term used by Lev Vygotsky to describe the child's act of speaking to herself? That is, if you observe young children, they will be talking to themselves when they are playing. Even if they are playing alone, they will have a conversation with themselves. So what is this speaking to himself or herself called? Now this is private speech. This is a very simple question but very important because this is very frequently asked in various question papers. So you have to remember that the act of speaking to himself or herself is called private speech, and that is the correct answer here. Which of the following characterizes a progressive classroom? Now, the first option is focus on drill and practice. So, drill and practice means you are giving the children some activities and you are making them repeat it again and again. For example, you give the children a set of problems or sums and you make them repeat them again and again till they get perfect with that. Is that a progressive classroom? No, because all you are doing here is you are drilling the children. You are making them remember things whether or not they understand something. Therefore, this drill and practice is not progressive. Therefore, this cannot be the correct answer. Next, ability-based fixed segregation. That is, if you segregate the class basis some ability, for example, children who are good in maths are put in one group and children who are bad in maths are put in one group, children who are good in communication are put in one group, and children who are bad in communication or English or language are put in another group. So such segregation is absolutely not recommended. Therefore, this cannot be progressive. The third one is collaborative learning. Now, if the children are learning in a group and they are collaborating with each other, they are cooperating with each other and the teacher and learning everything as a group through interaction between themselves and with the teacher, then that is called collaborative learning, and that is definitely a characteristic of a progressive classroom. Therefore, this is the correct answer. The last one is use of rewards and punishment. Now, this is also a very old methodology because you are saying that if the child learns something, then he or she will get a reward. If the child does not learn, then the child will be punished. So you are trying to teach them something through fear or through some sort of an incentive. So this cannot be progressive because the moment you start using punishment or fear, then it cannot be progressive at all. Therefore, this cannot be the correct answer. The correct answer here is collaborative learning. A child has the ability to understand the intentions and desires of others. The child has which of the following? Now, is it spatial intelligence? No, because spatial intelligence refers to the ability to understand whether particular objects fit into a particular space, or this can also be called as geometric intelligence. So, spatial intelligence cannot be the correct answer because we are not dealing with any geometrical or three-dimensional issues here. Now, is it intrapersonal? Now, intrapersonal means the ability of a person to understand inside or within himself or herself. That is, if the child is able to understand his own emotions, desires, then that is called intrapersonal intelligence. So this cannot be the correct answer. The last one is naturalistic intelligence. So naturalistic intelligence means the ability to understand nature, how animals behave, how plants behave. Right? Therefore, naturalistic intelligence is not the correct answer here. So we are left with one choice, that is interpersonal intelligence. That is interperson, between two persons, that is the intentions and desires of others, that is other persons. Therefore, that is interpersonal intelligence, and that is the correct answer. Which of the following statements is proposed in the National Education Policy of 2020? Now, this is a very simple question, but you have to understand all the options to be able to answer this correctly. The first one says, being educated in one's mother tongue is detrimental to education and technological advancements. This is a very incorrect statement. That is, the statement is saying that if you are educated in the mother tongue, then you cannot learn technological advancements. Now, this is incorrect because think about if the Chinese people are learning things in Chinese language. Are they technologically behind us? No. If the Japanese people teach and learn things in Japanese, are they technologically behind the rest of the world? No. They are learning in their own mother tongue and they are able to learn and keep up with all the latest educational and technological advancements. Therefore, being educated in one's mother tongue is definitely not detrimental to educational and technological advancements. Therefore, this is an incorrect statement. The next one is, school should encourage children to learn and speak English as the first language. This is also incorrect because it has been proven that children learn better if first they are taught in their own mother tongue and then English is introduced into their curriculum. Therefore, this statement is incorrect. The third one, multilingualism is a great cognitive benefits for young students. Now, this is an absolutely correct statement and this is the correct answer to this question. Multilingualism means if a child learns more than one language, then it is proven scientifically that the child develops extra additional intelligence because the child is learning multiple languages. Therefore, this has great cognitive benefits. Therefore, this is the correct statement and it is also proposed in the National Educational Policy of 2020 that the child should be exposed to multiple languages. The last one is bilingual approach confuses students and hampers learning. This is incorrect. It means that if we introduce any other languages, that is if a child is learning English and Hindi and any other local language, then we are saying that bilingual approach confuses the students. This is incorrect because the child should learn multiple languages. Therefore, the correct answer here is multilingualism has great cognitive benefits for young children. Gender roles are which of the following? Now, to answer this question, first we have to understand what are these gender roles. So, gender roles are roles that are based on the gender of the child. So, these are expectations based on the gender of the child. For example, if the expectation is that a girl child will help in the kitchen, will learn cooking, then that is an expectation of the girl's role based on her gender. And if you expect that boys will play certain type of games and they will help in the business or do certain type of activities, then that is an expectation based on the gender of the child just because he is a boy. Right? So how do children actually learn these gender roles? Is it innate behavior? Are children born with such behavior? Are girls born with the behavior that they will learn cooking? No. So it cannot be innate behavior. Is it biological constructions? In the sense, do girls have any special biological construction which will help them in cooking? No. And is it genetically determined? In the sense, is it written in our genes that girls should like cooking? No. Therefore, gender roles are nothing but learned behavior because that is what is expected out of the child by the others in the family or others in the community or others around them. For example, if when the girl child is small, young, then if the parents and the relatives constantly keep pushing the girl child that you should learn how to cook, you should help in household activities, then that is a kind of behavior that the girl will learn. And similarly, if you keep pushing boys saying that these are the type of games that you should play, these are the type of dresses that you should wear, these are the type of activities that you should participate in, then that is the behavior that they will learn. So gender roles are learned behavior. And that is the correct answer. A small example could be, why is it that girls like to play with Barbie dolls or kitchen sets? And why is it that boys like to play with guns and cars? That is because they are given such type of toys when they are young. That is, they are taught by their parents or by their relatives that this is the kind of toys that boys should play with and this is the kind of toys that girls should play with. So this type of gender roles are actually learned by the children. Therefore, gender roles are learned behavior. The primary goal of continuous and comprehensive evaluation is which of the following? Now, to answer this question, first we have to understand what is the primary goal of teaching. The primary goal of teaching is to ensure that the children are able to understand and grasp what is being taught to them. Now, when you are trying to assess what the children are learning, is it to compare the students' performance? No. While this happens as a part of the assessment process, this is not the primary goal. And is it to assign ranks to students? Definitely not. Is it to declare students as pass or fail? Definitely not. So now these three reasons, that is comparing students and assigning ranks and declaring whether children have passed or failed, happen because of the assessment, but that is not the primary reason. The primary reason of assessment is also the primary reason of learning or teaching. That is, it is to ensure that the children are able to understand what is being taught to them. And if you are doing a continuous and comprehensive evaluation, that is, you assess the children after each lesson, during the lesson, after every week, after every month, after every quarter, and after every year, then you are assessing whether the children are understanding what is being taught to them. And if they are not able to understand, you will modify the curriculum and ensure that the children are taught in the way that they can understand. Therefore, the primary goal and the most important goal of continuous and comprehensive evaluation and of teaching and learning is to ensure that the children understand what is being taught. And if they are not able to understand, you can modify the curriculum and teach them in a way that they can understand. Therefore, this is the correct answer. Before deciding on an assessment method for our class, what should the teacher keep in mind? Now, the purpose of any assessment or evaluation method is not just to assess the learning, but also to assess or evaluate the teaching. And this is something that you should always keep in mind. Now, the first option is, who is going to use the results beside me? This is an absolutely correct statement, because the teacher should know what are the results of the assessment or the evaluation going to be used for, who is going to use them, right? So this is something that the teacher should keep in mind. Next, what is the best way to find out the learning curves of the individual students? Now you are not trying to evaluate or assess the entire class, you are trying to assess or evaluate the individual students. So the teacher has to keep in mind what is the best way to find out the learning curves of the individual students who need to be assessed. Therefore, this is a correct statement. The third one is, which method would help me to reflect on my pedagogy? This is also a correct statement, because as I mentioned, assessment or evaluation is not just to assess or evaluate the learning, but also to how the teacher is teaching. Right? Therefore, the teacher should use a methodology which will help her understand whether her pedagogy or the way in which she is teaching, is it effective or not? Are the children able to understand or not? Therefore, assessment method should take into consideration these three factors. Now the last one, which says which method would help in label and segregate students. This is as an absolutely incorrect statement, because you should never label students. That is, you should never say that these students are smart, these students are dull, or these students are dumb. Therefore, labeling is discouraged, and segregation is also discouraged. That is, you should not put all the high scoring students into one group and all the lower scoring students into one group and segregate them like that. Therefore, labeling and segregation is incorrect. Therefore, the correct answer here is 1, 2 and 3. This question is asking us, what is the meaning of inclusive education? So now, inclusive education means to include. That is, all children, irrespective of their background or their abilities, should get the same kind of opportunities and should get to study in the same kind of schools in the same classrooms as all children. Therefore, when we look at the answer choices, the first one says EWS, that is economically weaker section quota, should be made available only in government schools. This is an incorrect statement, because irrespective of the background of the children, they should all get an opportunity to study in any school, that is government schools or private schools, and EWS quota is applicable in private schools and aided schools also. Therefore, this statement is incorrect. Next, students with disabilities should be placed in special schools. Again, all students, irrespective of their ability or disability, should be allowed to study in the same schools and not just special schools. Therefore, this is also incorrect. Next, only English should be taught in government schools. Now this is also an incorrect statement, because as mentioned in the National Curriculum Framework, teaching children in the mother tongue is very, very important, and children learn a lot better if the initial education is in the mother tongue. And English should also be part of the curriculum. Therefore, only English should be taught in government schools is incorrect. And the last one says all children, irrespective of their abilities, should be provided quality education. This is a correct statement, because all children, irrespective of their abilities or background, should have access to quality education. So this is the correct answer. Before answering this question, we first have to understand that not all students are equal. Some students may understand some concepts quite easily, and some students may require some additional explanation or practice. Therefore, when the teacher is teaching anything in the classroom, she has to use a variety of ways to represent the content of the context of teaching. And this is because she has to adapt the pedagogy or the teaching style to ensure that the various types of students that are there in the classroom, the students who can understand things fast, the students who take a little more time to understand things. So the pedagogy or the teaching style should ensure that all the students are able to understand what is being taught. Therefore, the assertion that while teaching, a teacher should use a variety of ways to represent the content or the context of teaching is correct. And the reason is because the students in the classroom are of diverse nature. In the sense, not everybody is same. Therefore, the teacher needs to adapt the pedagogy or the teaching style accordingly. Therefore, both assertion A is correct and the reason R is also correct, and the reason R is the correct explanation for the assertion A. Therefore, when we look at the answer choices, the first one says that both A and R are correct or true, and the reason R is the correct explanation of the assertion A. Therefore, this is the correct answer. A child is facing regular difficulty in writing. She also experiences a challenge in the formation of alphabets and the spacing of words. So we have to identify that this difficulty in writing is which of these learning disabilities. This is a very simple question and you can remember this in a very easy way. That is, lexia means reading. Therefore, dyslexia means difficulty in reading. Graphia or graphs is writing. Therefore, dysgraphia is difficulty in writing. And calculia or calculation. So, dyscalculia is the difficulty in calculation, that is the difficulty in understanding mathematical concepts. And attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, is the disability where the child is not able to pay attention to what is being taught. The attention span of the child is very less. So here we are trying to understand what is the difficulty in writing. So difficulty in writing is dysgraphia because graph is writing. So this is the correct answer. To cater to individual differences among the students, a teacher should do which of the following. So what does this individual differences mean? Individual differences mean that all students are not same. Some students may require extra explanation, some students may require extra attention, some students may require extra practice. So if you treat all the students similarly, then some students may not be able to understand the way that you are teaching. Therefore, the teacher should ensure that he or she is using a variety of pedagogical methods to ensure that all the children can understand what is being taught. Similarly, if you try to use the same kind of assessment methodology for all the students, it will not work. So even the assessment methodologies have to be different to ensure that all the students are assessed. Some students may do well in theoretical exams, some students may do well in practical exams. So you have to use different types of assessment methodologies. Now when we look at the answer choices, the first one says use standardized instructional methods and uniform ways of assessment. So if you are going to use only one standardized instructional method and one uniform way of assessment, then this is not going to work for a diverse classroom. Next, use a variety of pedagogical approaches and means of assessment. This is a correct statement and this is the answer to this question. Next, use uniform pedagogy to ensure memorization and focus on summative assessment. So if you are going to use uniform or one particular type of pedagogy, it is not going to work. So this is incorrect. Next, to ensure memorization and focus on summative assessment. Now memorization or rote learning is also that is discouraged. Therefore, this is also incorrect. Since there are multiple incorrect options in this statement itself is incorrect. Next, increase the number of paper pencil tests and focus on recall. So if you just increase the number of paper pencil tests, you are just increasing one type of test, right? So this will not work. And focus on recall. Recall is nothing but memorization or rote learning. This is also discouraged. Therefore, this statement is also wrong. Which of the following is an essential characteristic of creativity? Now when we think of creative children, we say that these children are able to think differently. They are able to do things differently. They are able to think outside the box. So this ability to think differently is nothing but divergent thinking. So divergent is where you are not just thinking the same way that everybody else is thinking, but you are able to think in a different direction. Therefore, divergent thinking is an essential characteristic of creativity, and this is the correct answer. Impulsiveness is just a tendency to do things without thinking. Therefore, impulsiveness is not an essential characteristic of creativity. Centration in thought. Centration is the ability to just focus on one thing at a time. Therefore, centration is not an essential characteristic of creativity. And convergent thinking. Convergent thinking is just a normal way of thinking where the child is thinking the same way that everybody else is thinking. Therefore, this is also not a characteristic of creativity. This question is asking us to identify the ways in which young children can construct knowledge and make meanings. So now the first option is active exploration. This is a correct answer because children will not just learn through textbooks. They will actively explore their surroundings and any opportunities that they get to go outside. They will look at nature, they will look at whatever demonstration is given, and they explore things. And when they explore, then they construct their own knowledge. Therefore, this is correct. Next, play. Play is definitely a very important way of interacting with people, with interacting with peers, with other children, and learning a lot of things. Therefore, they construct knowledge through play. This is correct. Next, active on materials and experimenting. This is again very similar to exploration. Children will experiment with things that they have access to. They will experiment with a lot of material that they can access, and they will construct their knowledge through experimentation and active materials. Next, interaction with peers and adults. This is also absolutely correct because children, when they interact with their peers, other children, and when they interact with adults in their family, in their community, in their school, then they construct a lot of knowledge. Therefore, all the four options are correct here. Therefore, the correct answer here is 1, 2, 3 and 4. To help children memorize phone numbers, a teacher suggested to divide 10 digits of the phone number into 3 or 4 smaller units and then remember. This strategy suggested by the teacher is called what? Now, for example, if a child has to remember a 10-digit phone number like this, then what the teacher is suggesting is that break it down into smaller units such as 981, 789, 192 and 7. So by breaking it down, the children can remember the number easily. So this is nothing but chunking because you are breaking down the number into smaller chunks or pieces. Therefore, the correct answer here is chunking. Which of the following forms of learning should be emphasized most in schools? That is, which of these forms of learning should be given more importance in schools? The first one is acquiring different skills and knowledge through interaction with surroundings. This is the correct answer, and this is an absolutely correct statement because when children interact with their surroundings, they can interact with their parents, with their friends, with their teachers, with their community members. When they interact with the things that they see around them, they acquire different skills and they acquire different types of knowledge. So this knowledge is actually useful in real life. Therefore, that is the correct answer. Next, rote memorizing the content. Rote memorizing is nothing but just remembering things irrespective of whether you understand it or not. So rote memorization is absolutely discouraged. Therefore, this is incorrect. Next, passive imitation of others. Passive imitation means looking at somebody else, maybe looking at the teacher and just imitating the teacher and trying to solve the same problems or trying to solve similar problems by just looking at how the teacher is doing it. So it is not necessary that the child has actually understood the problem or understood the knowledge or understood the lesson. The child is just imitating somebody else. Therefore, this is not to be emphasized. The last one is conditioning behaviors through stimulus and response association. Now, if you look at it, in some schools, what happens is children are made to mug up or just remember or rote learn tables. So as soon as they see the tables, then they can just repeat whatever they remember. Whether they know what the tables mean or not is not clear, right? But they remember the tables irrespective of whether they understood it or not. Therefore, conditioning behaviors through stimulus and response, such as conditioning students through giving them some rewards or by threatening them with punishment. So this is also not a thing that should be emphasized. Therefore, the only thing that should be emphasized is acquiring different skills and knowledge through interaction with surroundings, which is the correct answer. Which of the following exemplify a social constructivist approach to facilitate reading among children? While I will talk at length and talk in detail about what is the social constructivist approach in a different video, I will give you a very simple way of understanding this concept. In a social constructivist approach, there should be some social interaction. That is, the child should have some interaction with others. And next, there should be constructivism. That is, the child should be constructing the knowledge in his or her mind using the information or the data that is being provided. So, the data needs to be provided to the child, or the information needs to be provided to the child, and there should be social interactions. So, this is social constructivism in very simple words. Now, when we look at the options, the first one says Salma uses flashcards to help students learn new words and rewards them with candy for correct responses. When Salma is using flashcards, these are cards on which the new words are written. Now, the children are probably memorizing them because there is an incentive or a reward for them, which is the candy, which is being given if they respond correctly. So, whether the children have actually understood what is written on the cards or not is not clear here. The children just remember what is written on the cards because they are expecting a reward. Therefore, this is not a social constructivist approach. Since 1 is incorrect, all the options which have 1, that is option 1, option 2 and option 4 are incorrect. Therefore, we are left with only one option, that is option 3, which is the correct answer. Now, let us look at the other statements as well. The next one says, Pramati has her students choose from a variety of books to read, and those students who read the particular book are made to discuss the book on a regular basis. Now, children are getting information by reading the book, and they are discussing, that is, they are interacting with other students or other children in the class, and this is where the social interaction is also happening. So, the information and the social interaction is happening. So, children are able to construct the knowledge in their own mind. So, this is an example of social constructivism. The next one is, Arundhati emphasizes the importance of using contextual material to help determine the meaning of new words. Here, what Arundhati is doing is, if she has to teach about the word ostrich, so what she does is, she does not give the spelling of ostrich, right? She will explain what the ostrich is all about. She will then give the spelling of ostrich, and she will also probably show some pictures or videos of ostrich, and if possible, she will take the children to a zoo so that they can actually see in real life what an ostrich is all about. So here, the word ostrich and the context are the real animal in the zoo, the spelling of the word, the additional information about that particular animal, and the children are also interacting with the teacher and probably with the zoo and other people or other children in the classroom. So there is a wide source of information that is happening, and children are actually constructing the knowledge in their own mind. Therefore, this is also an example of social constructivism. The last one is, Rekha has her students write each word that they miss on a spelling test 5 times to help them remember the word. Now this is where Rekha is actually giving them a punishment. If they write the word wrongly, then she is making them repeat writing it 5 times. Therefore, here she is using punishment to make them memorize the word, and it is not necessary that they actually understood or they actually know what that word means. Therefore, this is incorrect. Therefore, only 2 and 3 are correct examples of social constructivism. As a teacher, how can you facilitate problem-solving abilities in your students? Now, when you look at the options, the first one says generating fear among your students. Now, if students become afraid of maths or afraid of the problem, then in what way are they going to be good at solving that? They might be able to solve only that because they memorized it, but it doesn't mean that they will actually become good at maths. Therefore, generating fear is incorrect. Next, encouraging a fixed way of solving a problem. Now, if you make children memorize a particular fixed way of solving a problem, they can solve only that problem. They can't solve the problem if there are any changes in it. Therefore, encouraging a fixed way is definitely not a good option. Next, encouraging the use of analysis. This is a correct statement, and this is also the answer to this question, because if students are able to analyze the problem, understand the problem and then solve it, then they can solve the problem even if you change the details in it. Therefore, encouraging the use of analysis is the way in which you can facilitate problem solving abilities. The last one is emphasizing on the use of passive memorization strategies. Now, memorization is bad because they'll just remember how to solve that particular problem. They might not have actually understood it. Therefore, if they just memorize something, then it is not problem solving ability, it is just memorizing ability. Therefore, this is also incorrect. Therefore, the correct answer is encouraging the use of analysis. Which of the following will result in facilitation of a meaningful learning? Now, this is a very simple question, but you have to understand all the answer options properly to be able to answer this. The first one is promoting decontextualized learning in the classroom. Decontextualized means without any connection, without any context. For example, if I just teach you that ostrich is a bird and ostrich is a bird, so you will remember that ostrich is a bird. But you don't know what kind of a bird ostrich is. Does it look like a crow? Does it look like a sparrow? You don't know. But if I give you the proper context, that is, if I teach you that ostrich is a bird, but it is a very big bird, it cannot fly, but it can run very fast. So now you have a better context, you have a better connection about what an ostrich is all about. So if you decontextualize it, then it cannot be meaningful learning. Therefore, all learning should be contextual. Therefore, this is incorrect because of the decontextualizing aspect. Next one, encouraging multiple ways of working at a problem. This is absolutely correct, and this is the answer to this question as well, because if you encourage the students to think in different ways and try to solve the same problem in different ways that they can understand, then you are also encouraging their problem solving abilities. You are encouraging their creativity. Therefore, encouraging multiple ways of working at a problem is absolutely correct, and this leads to meaningful learning. The next one, encouraging rote learning. Rote learning is memorization, and this is absolutely discouraged. Therefore, this is incorrect. Next, copying answers written by the teacher on a blackboard. This again is just memorization. This is also nothing but rote learning. Therefore, this is also incorrect. Students are likely to experience which of the following emotions when they attribute internal factors to explain their success on a task? Now, when you interact with very young children, and if children have solved something on their own, that is, you give them a puzzle and they solved it without any help, then they come back and they tell you with lot of pride, I did it by myself. I completed this task by myself. You know what? I did this entire thing by myself, right? So the feeling that they feel there, the emotion that they feel there is pride. And that is the correct answer. They don't feel shame, they don't feel anger, they don't feel anxious. So they feel pride when they attribute internal factors to explain their success at a task. So that is the correct answer. At a primary level of education, use of multi-sensory approach should be encouraged because of which of the following? Now, multi-sensory approach means if the child is learning about something through multiple senses, by seeing it, by hearing about it, by smelling it, by touching or feeling it, that is use of multiple sense organs to learn about something. So this is multi-sensory approach. Now, if you look at it, if a child is learning something through a multi-sensory approach, then it makes the learning more effective, and that is the correct answer. For example, if I just tell you about some birds, then if I just tell you about the birds, you might not able to understand what the bird is all about. But if you can see a picture of the bird, if you can hear how the bird calls, and if you can actually smell the bird, and if you can touch and feel the bird in a zoo, then you are able to understand a lot more about the bird. Therefore, you are using as many senses as possible to understand or learn about the bird. This is multi-sensory approach, and that makes the learning more effective, and that is the correct answer. The next one, it gives opportunity to exclude certain students from education. This is incorrect. Why are you trying to exclude any student from the class, right? So this is a meaningless sentence here. Next, it saves a lot of instruction time of the teacher. Not necessarily, because if the teacher just reads about that, uses just one sentence, shows a picture, then the teacher saves a lot of time. By using a multi-sensory approach, that is by making the children see a picture of the bird, by playing some sounds of the bird, by probably providing them an opportunity to touch and feel the bird, the teacher is actually using up a lot of time. Therefore, multi-sensory approach will not save time. Therefore, this is incorrect. Next, it yields to docility among the students. Docility means children are just going to follow all the instructions without questioning the teacher. So multisensory approach will actually lead to the opposite effect. That is, because now children have used multiple senses to learn about the bird, they will have a lot more questions. They will question the teacher. They will ask their doubts. Therefore, docility is not encouraged by multisensory approach. Therefore, this is also incorrect. Children often form alternative conceptions and misconceptions about various concepts. Which of the following statements is not correct in this context? Now, for example, if we tell some children that sharks are dangerous fish, they will attack people, and we tell them that sharks live in the sea. And tomorrow if you take them to the beach, then they might refuse to get into the water. They might even refuse to put their feet into the water because they think that there will be sharks in the sea and these sharks will come out and attack them, right? So this is a misconception or an alternative conception that is based on some limited information that is available to the child. So here the teacher should actually explain a little bit more. The teacher should explain that yes, sharks live in the sea, but they are not there in all regions of the world and they are not there in shallow water. So the teacher has to provide some additional information and context to clear the doubts or the misconceptions of the child. Now, when we look at the options, the first one says alternative conceptions and misconceptions formed by the student should be highly discouraged by the teacher. This is an absolutely incorrect statement because alternative conceptions and misconceptions are very natural, right? Every child will form them based on the limited information that is available to them. Every adult also will form them based on the limited information that is available. So when the teacher is trying to discourage, it means that the teacher is actually trying to discourage the child from thinking at all. Therefore, this is an absolutely incorrect statement and this is not correct. Therefore, this is the answer because we have been asked to identify which of these statements is incorrect. The next one, formation of alternative concepts and misconception is very natural among children as well as adults. This is a correct statement. Next, a teacher should definitely attend to these alternative conceptions and misconceptions as they are significant in process of teaching learning. Absolutely correct because the child has formed these alternative conceptions or misconceptions based on the limited information that the child has. So the teacher should definitely attend to these conceptions and misconceptions and explain them in a better way so that the child has a better understanding. Therefore, this is a correct statement. The last one, alternative conceptions and misconceptions are not always baseless. Rather, these represents the child's intuitive ideas about the world and around them. This is absolutely correct because the child has put 2 and 2 together. That is, sharks live in water, sharks live in sea, and this is the sea. Therefore, there should be sharks in this water. So the child has an intuitive idea here. So it is not baseless, right? It might be incomplete information, but it is not completely incorrect. Therefore, alternative conceptions and misconceptions are not always baseless. Therefore, this is also a correct statement. Which of the following views of learning explains that tangible incentives and rewards will motivate students for learning? Now, if you are giving some incentives or rewards for students, for example, if you tell them that if you are able to solve this problem, I will give you a chocolate. Or if you are giving them some other incentive, then what you are trying to do is you are trying to control their behavior through these incentives and through these rewards. Therefore, if you give them these incentives and rewards, you are motivating students. So you are trying to control their behavior. Therefore, behavioral view of learning explains that tangible incentives and rewards motivate students for learning, and that is the correct answer here. And with that, we have completed the 30 CDP questions in this question paper. If you have any questions or comments, please post them in the comment section below, and please do give this video one like and subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. And if your friends are also preparing for the same exam, please do share this video with them so that you can help them out and help us out as well. So that's it for now. Thank you, stay safe, and I will see you again shortly in the next video.